College students, what was the first thing you did once you got accepted? Getting accepted to college was one of those moments I dreamed about for years, but never quite imagined would feel so surreal when it finally happened. I remember sitting at the kitchen table on a late spring afternoon, staring at the acceptance letter that was practically glowing in my hands. I must have read it a dozen times, each time trying to convince myself it was real. But once the initial shock faded, the question hit me. What do I do now? The first thing I did was call my parents. My hands were shaking as I dialed their number, and when they answered, I just blurted it out. There was a pause. Then they exploded into cheers and congratulations, but honestly, I was a little numb. It felt less like relief and more like standing on the edge of something huge and unknown. After the call, I paced around the room, replaying the letter in my mind and wondering if I was ready for everything college would bring. Next, I told my closest friends. We were sitting around the old wooden picnic table at the park near our houses. Their faces lit up when I told them, and they bombarded me with questions. What school? What are you going to study? When do you move? Their excitement was contagious, and for the first time, it really started to feel real. We laughed about how we'd all get lost on campus and joked about the crazy parties we'd hear about, but underneath the jokes was this quiet understanding that life was about to change, and none of us knew exactly how. After that day, I didn't jump into filling out forms or buying dorm supplies. I needed a little time to just be with the news, to let it sink in. So, I took a walk around the neighborhood, wandering the familiar streets with a mix of excitement and nervousness swirling inside me. I passed the local coffee shop where I used to meet friends after school, the library where I spent countless hours studying, and the park where I learned to ride my bike. All of it felt like a chapter closing and a new one beginning. When I got home, I sat down at my desk and opened a fresh notebook. I started writing down everything I was feeling, the hopes, the fears, the endless what-ifs. I wrote about wanting to make my family proud, about the people I hope to meet, and about the parts of myself I hope to discover. It wasn't neat or organized, just a jumble of thoughts and emotions, but it was a way to capture the moment, something tangible I could look back on. That night, I told myself I deserved a little celebration. I invited a few friends over, and we made a big deal out of it. Pizza, music, and a lot of laughter. We stayed up late talking about the future, trading stories about what we imagined college life would be like. Everyone had their own version, and even though none of us had been there yet, it felt like we were stepping into something together. The night was a mixture of joy and uncertainty, but it was real, and it was ours. The next morning brought a flood of practicalities. I started searching online for housing options, financial aid information, and class registration dates. Each click led to more questions. How do I pick classes? What if I don't get along with my roommate? What if I can't handle the workload? The unknown was overwhelming, but I forced myself to keep going. I made lists, highlighted deadlines, and bookmarked important pages. Slowly, the abstract idea of college began to take shape as a series of tasks I could tackle one by one. One day, I went to a campus tour open to accepted students. Walking through the buildings, sitting in classrooms, and seeing the dining hall buzzing with students was like stepping into the future. The campus wasn't as intimidating as I'd imagined. It felt alive and welcoming. I even met a few other kids who were just as nervous and excited as I was. That tour was a turning point. It made the whole thing feel less like a dream and more like a real next step. I also found myself diving into college groups and social media pages, trying to get a sense of the culture and the people. Some groups felt like a perfect fit, others less so. I read about clubs, sports teams, volunteer opportunities, and student organizations. The sheer number of options was dizzying, but it gave me hope that there'd be a place where I belonged. Between the excitement and the nerves, there were moments of doubt. I wondered if I was making the right choice, if I was ready to leave behind everything I knew. The thought of leaving home, of living away from family for the first time, was terrifying. But alongside that fear was a growing curiosity about who I could become, about the independence I'd never had before. In those early weeks after acceptance, I learned a lot about patience and perspective. The future was coming fast, but I couldn't rush it. I had to prepare in my own time, balancing the anticipation with the day-to-day of my current life. I had to say goodbye to parts of my old routine while still holding on to the people and places that mattered. Looking back, the first thing I did when I got accepted to college wasn't rush into decisions or buy all the gear. It was to pause and let the moment wash over me, to tell the people I loved, to dream a little, and to start writing the story of what was next. That quiet, unglamorous time of reflection and hope turned out to be just as important as the big milestones that followed. It was the beginning of everything.